What is going on, guys? Welcome to Test This Tech. And bro, I just returned my Steam Deck, bro. Now, I'm going to explain why, but first I do want to preface some things just for those Steam Deck fans, which I know a lot of people are that obviously have had the Steam Deck. There's a few things for clarity. So when I ordered my Steam Deck, it was a refurbished Steam Deck. It was the Steam Deck LCD, the 256 gigabyte model. I ordered that through Amazon, and it was a little bit after, excuse me, it was a little bit after the Steam Deck LCD was on sale, new for $319. Fortunately, I ordered mine through Amazon, so it was a little more expensive, and it was refurbished, but I had the Amazon credit from a prior return that I did, and I said, why not? Why not? So in my experience, one of the main reasons why I returned this, okay, is because of this guy. And I know there's a glare here, but this is the Asus ROG ROG Ally. Okay, this is one of the main reasons why I did return the Steam Deck. Now, the Steam Deck, what it does right, I would say the majority, there are a couple of games that actually the Steam Deck, I feel like it was able to load and boot up better, more efficiently than the Asus ROG Ally. And I think that's more of a Windows issue. And I don't have a problem putting SteamOS on this. I've done that before, actually. But there's the ergonomics for one. Let's just start with the ergonomics. Ergonomics for one are fantastic. I think they are better on the Steam Deck than they are on the ROG Ally. This is the OG one, the Z1E model, but it's the ROG one. I would say the Steam Deck definitely is more comfortable than the ROG Ally. This is the few main reasons why I returned it. From a hardware perspective, and I don't know if this is different on the OLED model, from a hardware perspective, there's some weird quirks to it. The touch sensitive pads on the Steam Deck, they are convenient, but they're convenient when they work. I realized there was a lot of different times where I would use the touchpad on the left or right side. Sometimes they would work, sometimes they would not. And then I would have to revert to using the analog stick, which I have no problem doing. But there's a lot of weird quirks that just stopped working, and I found myself using other ways to get what I need to get done with the Steam Deck, but it wasn't an options thing. It was kind of me compensating to use another thing to get another thing done. So like if I were to scroll and I needed to access something, I would use the analog stick, not because I just wanted to use the analog stick instead of the touchpad. It was the only reason or the way for me to do it unless I plugged in a mouse and keyboard. One of the biggest reasons as far as returning it is because when it comes to setting up the Steam Deck, no one really talks about this online. And I will say it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to set up the Steam Deck than it used to be. From my understanding, because I was setting up EmuDeck and everything to my Steam Deck, and a lot of these different launchers to kind of do a lot of the setting up for you, especially EmuDeck. But I ran into a lot of issues when it comes to just when I would upload the certain games or whatnot, and then the destinations, the directories would be off and weird. There are times where it would just freeze, and I know a lot of people, when they do set up their Steam Deck, most people are plugging in to a mouse and keyboard, to a computer screen, or just at least mouse and keyboard to set that stuff up. While I do understand that, I don't need to do that for the Asus ROG Ally. The keyboard comes up anytime I need to use the keyboard. For the Steam Deck, one of the annoyances that I encountered, and maybe they fixed this in an update, was that I would have to press Steam and X to pull up the actual Steam Deck keyboard, the same way that would come up if you were on the Steam OS. Not Steam OS, if you were on the the main Steam page, big picture mode, etc. I don't have to do that for this. It just pulls up the keyboard and I can just type into it. So there's some times where I would have to pull up Steam in order for the keyboard to work, even if I did do the Steam and X command. Again, it's not a deal breaker, end of the world, but when you have a device that is more powerful, and this has 120 hertz refresh rate, it is something to complain about when you have a device that is more powerful. Now, I know when it comes to the Steam Deck, it is all about efficiency, right? It's all about efficiency. And yeah, it is efficient. It is efficient. And I got the LCD model kind of just like, I want to check this out. I want to see how this is. This comes to the experience. I used to own the Odin 2, right? That was not an OLED screen. I know people, complained about ghosting, rightfully so on the screen when it comes to the Odin 2. But, I wanted to check it out. I wanted to try it, see for myself how it is and everything. And I feel like that's kind of why I landed on the Steam Deck LCD, because of that credit and just checking it out. So when it comes to the experience of playing the games, it plays the games fine, and the Steam Deck does a lot, right? But I would say this does all of that and a little more. Now, obviously, the biggest things that the Steam Deck is going to succeed on, which I do respect it, and I do consider potentially getting either an OLED model or just waiting for the Steam Deck 2, is the efficiency in which it can do a myriad of things with the support of good battery life. Completely understand that. The Steam Deck trumps this, when it comes to battery life. And a lot of that is because, this can push a higher wattage when it comes to playing games. So I can get like 30 watts, 30 watts booted here. To really push performance, right? Obviously, I can't really do that for the Steam Deck, but the Steam Deck isn't designed that way. It's designed for efficiency, So the biggest plus on the Steam Deck, when everybody just says get a Steam Deck, bro, because when you're leaning on $300-$400, $400-$500, you're in Steam Deck territory where you can play so many games on the Steam Deck relatively well, especially that'll compensate a screen like this. And I say like this, meaning the size of it. I know the Steam Deck is a 90 hertz screen. This is 120, but I'm just saying as far as screen size in general, it's going to get the job done within that price range, so within the perspective of the cost, I completely understand. But for me, I had to sit back and think, Jerome, what does the Steam Deck do that the ROG Ally doesn't do? And the biggest thing really was battery life. But then I also thought, where am I when I'm playing the Steam Deck? Most of the time, I'm next to an outlet. And then I also thought, Drew, where are you when you play this? And I am going to do the battery mod for this. I'm going to do the JSaw battery mod where I can get a 65 watt battery in here instead of I want to say it's like a 45 watt or whatever it is in here. I'm going to do the JSaw battery mod on this and probably put Battlestar on here as well. It was the same answer. I was next to an outlet, and I don't mind plugging in this to play a certain game, especially if I want to play it at a high, performance, up the wattage. I don't mind plugging things into the wall, especially because the brick is, or the cable is pretty long. So I know this is a lot of back and forth ranting that I did, but at the end of the day, if I would have kept my Steam Deck if I didn't have this, just because the price to performance, how much you can do with it, it just works. The battery life is very good. It's an efficient device. Right, it's an efficient device. But to me, the biggest negative on the Steam Deck, to me, is the hardware. I think the hardware and the software, when you're not in the Steam big picture mode, I think there needs to be a little more work done where it's more efficient. And they might be able to fix that through these updates that they've been doing. Right, and if they do, great. Maybe I'll save up and get a Steam Deck OLED just because I respect the Steam Deck so much. So I just want to be very clear when I say that. And again, I purchased a refurbished model from a third-party company. It was not the third party through Valve themselves. I want to be clear on that as well. So those are my thoughts. Those are the reasons why I returned the Steam Deck. I understand the just get a Steam Deck, bro, especially when it comes to the price range. Completely understand. But this guy is going to serve me well until I save up to get, a Steam Deck OLED in the future or something else. But Anyway, I will leave it there. Jerome Test This Tech. I'll catch you guys next video. Thanks so much.